Now, I'm going to kind of hone in on a couple of points that you've mentioned here, especially focused on inventory. So from what I understand, and pardon me if I'm making a few gaffes here, it may be obvious to someone like you. One of the points that I think of when I think about inventory and source composition analysis is that inventory is software bill of materials and source composition analysis is the study of vulnerabilities of your inventory. So is that, first of all, correct? And if yes, what have you done to sort out these two issues? You can talk about your project specifically and how your project specifically have addressed these issues, because I know you have definitely done things in these two spaces. How you've addressed them, what you've essentially focused in on, what were your goals while trying to address these two, possibly even disparate issues, right? So yeah, let's.
Okay, yeah. I haven't seen a definition of SCA that actually, I think that actually truly describes what the tools actually do. I like to look at the approach and how they do it. So instead of like describing SCA, we're all looking at third-party open source components. I like to step back and describe how these tools do it, because that actually makes a big difference. SCA tools, like I said earlier, are designed to identify risk, not necessarily to create that accurate inventory. And they do so by either doing binary analysis, looking at the files themselves, they'll look at the coordinates, they'll look at, maybe the file hash or maybe the AST fingerprint, whatever method of analysis they use, it's some kind of binary thing, or they look at the manifest. And in both cases, both of those are educated guesses. You're looking at something, I see evidence of this thing, therefore it is that thing. In a lot of cases, yeah, that's going to be true. But again, open source is the ultimate supply chain, and organizations will and continue to make modifications for things and change things, redistribute things, rename things, and what you think you have may not necessarily be true. So if you actually start the other way, so SCA I look as more of a reactionary type of thing where it's really easy to get the tools installed. There's a bunch of commercial vendors in the space, but don't expect a complete 100% accurate inventory from these tools. I've done my own bake-offs, so to speak, and none of them really got above 90 some odd percent in terms of their accuracy. And that's just for component identity. That's not even talking about vulnerabilities yet. But if you approach the problem from the opposite perspective, if you start asserting what that inventory is, and you actually have a portable mechanism that actually describes what that inventory is, and you put it through your pipeline, now developers can have control over what that inventory is. So if they've actually made that modification to that thing, they can actually describe that modification to that thing. Who made it, what the modifications were, what components it was derived from. So you have a much more accurate representation of reality. And if there's any kind of corrections that need to be made as well, you can add those as well. But you also, when you have that inventory that being portable now, which is really what SBOMs or software bill of materials is really about. It's a portable way to describe your inventory and and who you got things from. But when you have an SBOM in your software supply chain, now you can start adding more full stack things. If I'm producing a Docker container, well, I can describe the libraries and applications and OS packages and the operating system that is in that container. If I am also distributing an IoT device, or if I'm distributing a medical device, I can describe that entire stack. And in many cases, if I'm describing an automobile, it's going to have multiple software stacks. I can describe all of them. So it tries to address, I guess, a much wider picture once you actually start doing an inventory first approach rather than an inventory last approach, which is currently what SCA, most SCA tools do today.